All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially starting our Math 7 textbook. We're going to be looking at lesson 1.1, integers and absolute value. Now, some of this information you might already know, and that's fantastic. That just means you're going to be rocking Math 7 at the very beginning of the year and hopefully throughout the year as well. Our objectives today is we will define and find the absolute value of a number. Now, some students kind of use tricks, if you will, but we really want to make sure that we're using the correct mathematical terms. And then we'll also always throughout the year be solving real life problems because our goal is to not only understand math, but how it applies to real life. We don't want the, when am I ever going to use this? You're going to use math your whole life. Now, you may not be a math teacher like me, but you also want to have your mathematical thinking, the step-by-step, very sequential thinking can be very helpful in many, many situations. All right, over here on the side, if you notice, you've got your absolute value symbol. It kind of looks like parallel lines, if you will. And it says the distance a number is to 0. So we're talking about like on the number line. And if we were in my classroom, you would see a number line on the wall, but you've seen number lines before. And again, it depends on what number, whether you're dealing with positive, negative, or even traditional 0 in the center. What is the distance to 0? So like when you were in PE, hopefully you'll be back to school with rocking PE, they'd ask you to run the mile. The mile is a positive distance. It doesn't matter if you'd run it backwards, spinning around, you're still running a mile. So it says it is always positive unless, and that's really important there, unless the negative sign is outside the absolute value symbol. So do you see it right there? Beautiful. So I'm going to change my pointer and ask you to highlight this unless. So what you're doing again is you're taking excellent notes. If you have any questions, make sure you get them to me. Find the absolute value of 3. Now this is pretty basic. A lot of students are like, really? But look at this. Look what we got. We got our number line. You've got your what? You got a bunny rabbit. So again, the question is, from 3, how many spaces is it to get to 0? And sometimes you could actually do it the other way. You could start at 0 and move to that number that you're talking about. So look at this. Look at this. The bunny's gonna... Where'd he go? Man, the bunny. There's the bunny. The bunny's gonna keep jumping. You may seem this is a little silly, but that's funny. I like it. Silly bunny. The bunny jumped 3 spaces. So obviously the absolute value of 3 is 3. And that's kind of a duh statement. But again, it's really showing you the emphasis of it's the distance from 0 to that given number. Some people like to say, well, can't I start at the given number and move to 0? Perfect, because remember, on absolute value, the distance is always a positive thought, unless the negative sign is outside the absolute value symbols. So absolute value of 3 is 3. Let's see, do we have another bunny? Find the absolute value of negative 5. Remember, if you need to, you could always pause the video, back it up. I wish we had like a, instead of a bunny, like maybe a goat, because goats jump sometimes. Maybe you've seen those videos. All right, what's the distance from 0 to negative 5? That's really what you're asking yourself. So let's see, go bunny, go bunny. Fast bunny, fast bunny. Yeah. So the bunny moved a total of 5 spaces. So that means the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. But Mr. Murillo, I thought if there was a negative sign, then it'd be a negative answer. No, because remember, that's when the negative sign is outside the absolute value symbol. The negative 5 is inside the absolute value symbol. Excellent. All right, so I've got a few problems here for you. I'm going to ask you to write those down, A, B, C, and D. You don't have to make the bunny because, again, you're really going to have the bunny jump that much on problem C? Probably not. But write those down real quick. If you know the answer right away, go ahead and just put it next to the problem, and I'll show you those answers in just a moment. All right, you probably already have it. The absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of negative 11 is 11. The absolute value of negative 128 is 128. And then the not really tricky one, because remember, if you're on 0, what's the distance from 0 if you're on 0? Well, it's just 0, right? So that's the only one that you can't really have that negative sign outside the absolute value symbol, because there's no such thing as negative 0. It's just 0. It's a neutral number. No positive, no negative associated with it. Yay. Once we have truly understood or mastered our absolute value, we then move on to comparisons. You did comparisons in elementary school. Now remember, you may have heard it like the crocodile or dinosaur. We really try and avoid those terms because in junior high and high school, we've really been encouraged to use the correct terminology. And if you remember right here, this is less than, and I always tell my students, let me see if I can do it with my camera here, left hand, less than. So you would make that symbol with your left hand, so that's why it's the less than. This one is greater than. And then, of course, we all know our equal sign. So in order to truly compare, we ask our students to take the absolute value of whatever numbers are there. So it says the absolute value of negative 8. Well, that's just 8, right? So then we're asked to compare 8 and 1. Well, that's kind of a duh statement. We know that 8 is greater than 1, but we really want to practice the correct terminology again. So you're not going to say, oh, the 8 is eating the 1, or the crocodile is eating the 8. That's what I meant. The crocodile is not eating the 8. We don't say that. We say 8 is greater than 1. Correct terminology, please. So for this one, we really just need to evaluate the right side. Then we'll be able to compare our two numbers. Now, if you notice on the right side, it says the absolute value of negative 27. Well, the absolute value of negative 27 is 27. When we compare this, we would say negative 27 is less than 27. If it was an Illuminate test, you would obviously either type the words, less than, or you'd be able to even type in the symbol, or if it was multiple choice, you would select the correct response that was less than. Again, it's usually the words that students struggle with. They know the symbol, but you got to know the words. All right, now we're going to go ahead and look at our textbooks. I'm going to grab mine here. If you'd like to, you can go ahead and pull out your textbook as well. Sorry, it's at the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and turn in my textbook to page 5, and it says to look at example 4. Come on, Mr. Murray. There we go. All right. Example 4, we've got a plane. I've got some data there. It says the substance, butter, airplane fuel. So not really a plane, but airplane fuel, honey, mercury, candle wax. And then I've got my freezing point given to us. I've got some positive values and some negative values. And this is in degrees Celsius. So it says, example 6, is the freezing point of an airplane fuel or candle wax closer to the freezing point of water? What? So let's see. Well, it tells me right there, the freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius, right? So it's really asking about the absolute value again. So I've got in my textbook a number line there already. So for the airplane fuel, it says it's negative 53. So I see that on the number line. And my candle wax, that is 55. I also see that on my number line. So it really wants me again to compare it. And when you compare it, remember you're taking the absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 53 and the absolute value of 55. Because again, it's the distance from 0. So if I write my absolute value bars, then I'm able to think about the problem correctly. The absolute value of negative 53, the absolute value of 55. So it really comes down to 53 and 55. And if I look back at the question, it says, is the freezing point of an airplane fuel or candle wax closer? So it's really asking me to identify which one is less, because that's closer, right? So 53 is less than 55, so that means technically, come on, let's go a little slow. There we go. That means that the freezing point of the airplane fuel is closer to 0, which is the freezing point of water, because 53 is less than 55, right there in that sentence. That's an excellent sentence. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. What? We're already done? Oh my goodness, that was such a quick lesson, which is actually a really good thing because remember, it is a Monday schedule, at least for right now. And what I'd like you to do, remember, is you're going to go ahead and use your textbook to take your assignment or do your assignment. You're going to check your odd answers in the back of the book. And then if you have any questions on the even answers, you could always ask me at the next class. All right, you're going to be awesome. If you missed any notes, remember, just back up the video and copy down what you missed. All right, have a great day.